Innovation and Design Thinking. IDT. VTU. Design Thinking for Strategic Innovations. Business Challenge, Strategy and Organization. Design Thinking Solution, Business Model Design. Business Challenge 8. Strategy and Organization. Not every company needs to make radical changes to its core business, but when the case for change is desperately obvious, it's desperately obvious. Consider the cases of Kodak, Sony, Palm, and GM. In each case, a business model redesign of structures, systems, cultures, and capabilities was driven by strategic innovation in order to play a new game. In cases like these, such transformations may include strategic decisions to move up market, move down market, or shift from products to services and solutions. When the pace of commoditization continues to accelerate or the industry's boundaries open up for new entrants, this type of transformation is critical. This is where design thinking comes into play. New disruptive business designs often leverage new and emerging technologies. Through creative and innovative approaches, many organizations make large shifts toward capital-light business models through a variety of means, including the adoption of open-source technologies, the development of strategic alliances, or a reconfiguration of their role in the value chains. Designing a capital-light or capital-efficient business model is in the best interests of shareholders and can potentially add real value and a remedy to stagnation. Increased disruption and the volatility of many business environments can make strategic planning a demoralizing exercise among executives who realize they must attempt to shape a future that is never truly known or under their control. Tasked with managing today's business activities and cash flow, most get trapped in calendars not designed to enable them to be flexible enough to deal with tomorrow's changes in the marketplace. Leaders and executives are often expected to have visionary capabilities, able to see into the future and deliver a coherent strategy for their company. This is a dangerous approach to strategic planning because what happens if and when that leader or executive is wrong? Knowing this can and does happen rather frequently, and whether the process occurs inside the private mind of the CEO and executive team or with the help of consultants, most leaders hedge their bets by relying on specialized planning departments run with elaborate data systems that do little more than further embed old assumptions or organizational dogmas. Because imagination and creativity have little or no place in the formal planning process, operational improvements usually take center stage because the benefits of them are easily quantifiable and can be benchmarked. As time goes by, however, many companies forget that there is a limit to the extent to which continual operations improvements can sustain growth. Instead of all these small and ongoing tweaks, companies need to find a future that they can play a key role in to create value. To do that requires a degree of corporate imagination in business model design. Companies need to find a future that they can play a key role in to create value. Design Thinking Solution. Business Model Design. There are plenty of myths around business model innovation, and it is often used interchangeably with business strategy and business design. There are two reasons for its rise in popularity: the proliferation of new technologies that gain consumer acceptance but a company fails to figure out a way to make money from them, and the intensification of inter-industry competition as well as rapid emergence of disruptive challengers. In strategy, the highest form of value creation comes from business model design, and a robust business model can raise barriers and allow companies to sustain their competitive advantages for decades. Think IKEA, Apple, Zara, Amazon, Costco, and ING. A good business model is also hard to replicate because it requires interlocking components. Some business models are more powerful than others. Their robustness depends on how value creation is matched with value capture. To innovate a company's business model, one must first understand how the previous model was defined and then examine what options and paths exist for improvement in the future. The aim is to create models that create customer stickiness, loyalty, or barriers to entry for competitors. The process is transformative, a complete redesign of core offerings to capture value in a new way. Everyone knows that a successful business model should unlock latent value from all of a company's assets. Even though so much has been written on the subject, however, the term business model is poorly understood. The fuzziness and confusion stem from the fact that when different authors write about business models, they are not necessarily referring to the same thing. Some are referring to parts of a revenue model, a subscription or license model, some to specific processes, a distribution model, and others to business strategy concepts, elements, and relationships between value chain players. But only something that refers to the totality of a business's activities, not just one part, can be called a business model. You never change something by fighting the existing reality. To change something, build a new model that makes the existing model obsolete. Buckminster Fuller. Functions and overcomplexity of business models. The functions of a business model are many. It should articulate a strong value proposition for some set of customers. It should define the structure of the value chain and how the company's role in it delivers value to those customers. It should describe the position of the company in the value network that links suppliers and customers, including the identification of potential collaborators and competitors. And it should design a value flow that illustrates where revenue will come from and how it can be optimized over time. These days, there is a lot of talk about how some business models are overly complex or difficult to manage from a risk and operating perspective. Strategic competitive advantage is created by the combination of strategy, culture, systems, brands, products and services, and the people in the organization. This in turn creates a complex ecosystem that extends beyond the boundaries of the boardroom and indeed the business units. Often, value resides in these complex ecosystems and makes it difficult for competitors or new entrants to replicate. Many large organizations are so complex that it is hard to fully understand how they operate and how they make money. It often seems as if they are running on autopilot. In fact, they are being run by big enterprise software systems, which interact with other specialized systems to form the organization's central nervous system. But there is inevitably a problem that arises when the software gets too big and too many systems are running. Like robots out of control, they can behave in unintended ways and trigger unpredictable systems behaviors. Whether software is to blame for Toyota's recent crisis or not, its failure did raise a critical question: is software today so complex that it can't be controlled? Also, what toll will the exposure of inherent bugs exact when millions of lines of codes turn into tens of billions? This question goes beyond software. Today, everything is too complex. Some systems, like some businesses, are too complex to be allowed to fail. Policy makers worried about the next banking or other crisis argue that this complexity should be avoided or eliminated through regulatory changes. In a sense, the idea is that dangerously complex systems can't be relied on to operate smoothly or even at all. Bigness is the implicit culprit. Recently, there has been talk about the collapse of complex business models. From an investor's point of view, there is a philosophical argument about whether it is better to invest in companies whose business models are easy to understand versus those that are overly complex. But sometimes complexity can be an advantage, often a very big one. Companies that are successful in leveraging advantageous complexity and eliminating disruptive complexity in their business strategy can enjoy a sustainable competitive advantage. GE is a good example of a company that leverages complexity to its advantage. In fact, research shows that there is a direct correlation between the successful management of complex business operations, overall company performance, and return on capital. What's the difference between business model and business strategy? Organizations need to understand the difference between how business models and strategies affect decision-making and performance. One question today is whether or not a business model and business strategy are one and the same. Business models were popularized when there were many startups that had little or no idea of how to create value or make money. As such, we can see why a startup can be seen as a company with a strategy but no idea of how to make money. One case in point is Twitter. For 4 years they have a great strategy but no real business model. 3 years into it, Twitter hired one person whose job it is to develop a business model, but there is no real expectation of seeing major revenue anytime soon. Any successful business model should operate under basic strategic principles, including the concepts of fit and differentiation. This is an old idea made popular by Harvard Business School professor Michael Porter in the 1980s. It's about lining up all of your business operations behind a central logic of value creation, and it is the most rigorous and practical strategy concept ever developed. The fit and differentiation concepts are also unlike business model design or business model innovation, which operate fuzzily around crafting value propositions, business activities, and a revenue model. Business strategy and business model innovation diverge when we are dealing with radical business model innovation. Strategy is competing within today's defined market space and industry boundaries and perfecting a set of business activities that differentiate you from your competitors. Business model design is part of strategy innovation and is essentially about designing business activities around tomorrow's opportunities. Its main mission is to answer the following questions. Business model versus business strategy. It is generally acceptable to use the terms business strategy and business model interchangeably as long as we understand the subtle distinctions. Both are used to refer to all the components and activities that guide managerial decisions. There are 4 key distinctions between the two. Both describe the business system and activities that show how each of the pieces of a business fit together. However, strategy mainly deals with competition and sustaining differentiation, whereas business models focus on the interplay of different elements, relationships, and how value is being created, captured, and transferred. In short, the core focus is how you make money. Business strategy includes the organizational capabilities that have a direct impact on operational decisions and the organizational culture or on how a strategy is to be executed. A business model is more about how a business functions in the value chain or networks. Business model execution and resource allocation decisions are mostly neglected. 3. A business model has a narrow focus on how a company can make money by focusing on pricing strategy, strategic partnerships, and channel choice. All of these decisions affect the top line and have as their goal the optimization of revenue or sometimes the survival of an early phase of a business. On the other hand, Business strategy deals with much broader and deeper issues, including capital structure, cost structure, and asset utilization. 4. Business models are subject to changes in technology and competitive dynamics and are therefore constantly subject to change themselves. On the other hand, once a strategy is set, it's all about the execution. Business Model Design Framework. Forget what your company knows it can already do. Instead, begin this process by asking what value is being created today and how it aligns with established or emerging customer needs. What is the exchange of value between everyone in the ecosystem? How does the current system answer customer needs and create customer surplus while generating profit? This purposeful linking of interdependent activities performed by the company in collaboration with suppliers, partners, and customers is the essence of business model design. A business model design exercise that puts the essential building blocks and their relationships in the value chain together makes it easier for managers to make decisions based on a better understanding of value flow and how a company makes money. They can adapt and fine-tune the business model once it is working. Explicating, capturing, and visualizing a business model will improve planning and provide a common understanding among key stakeholders. From a design thinking perspective, business model innovation leans toward exploring new approaches to the softer and less tangible qualities such as value proposition, organizational culture, values, and core competencies. Rather than building fixed assets or long-term infrastructure, there are mountains of opportunities to be discovered through more resourceful and creative tactics. Design thinking approaches to business model innovation may examine and seek to exploit the latent and potential value existing within an organization by identifying how its core competencies, resources, and assets, including intellectual property, can be leveraged in new and innovative ways. Design thinking may seek to interpret the qualities and characteristics of this latent potential, question what part of the value chain an existing model sits within, and explore ways in which the organization's latent potential or untapped assets and resources can be realigned into a new model. There has been little knowledge or practice development to date devoted to this important undertaking. It is as much a creative exercise as an analysis exercise. Here, authors provided a conceptual toolkit that enables readers to design their future business models and that also helps managers analyze and rethink their current designs so that they can be fine-tuned for the future. It needs to begin with identification of emerging behavior that will affect how value is being created today and identification of what the drivers of change are. What is the value exchange among key parties involved, including everyone in the activity system such as the purchasers and consumers, which sometimes are different parties? How does the current system respond to customers' needs and create customer surplus while generating a profit for the company? Thinking points. The most sustainable competitive advantage lies in a robust business model design. Although on a surface level there are only limited business model options, companies competing using different business models can have very different outcomes. Analysis of business models cannot be mechanical and needs to be considered on a systems level, which often becomes complex. Network effects are an exogenous feature of technologies, and a winner-take-all end result is common among platform-based competition. Design thinking can be applied to visualize and identify the relationships and long-term implications of different business models and their strengths and weaknesses. When they are performed as a simple spreadsheet exercise, there is a false sense of certainty about the future. Spreadsheets won't provide users the ability to see the entire supply and demand relationship, and it is the reason why so many new business models fail, even though they look robust on spreadsheets and in PowerPoint. A business model redesign often requires transforming organizational structures, processes, and culture in addition to capabilities. This is often a missing consideration or an afterthought, a common cause of less successful business model design implementation. There is a strong link between business models and organizational form and decision-making structure. Most unique business models require the support of a unique organizational design. Thanks for watching. Comment for any suggestions. Like, share and subscribe for more videos.